You know, some classes are just absolutely too much. What class could you have lived without? Or what class made you want to quit school? What's going on, everybody? This is your favorite YouTuber, your favorite professor, your favorite teacher, your favorite doctoral student, just your all-around favorite, Verdi L. Coleman III. Well, it's time for another episode. This one in particular, oh boy, how do I call it? The time I almost failed. So, when you're in school, whether it's high school, undergrad, or graduate school, there's always going to be one particular class that you're going to struggle with. And for some, the higher you are in the program, the higher the difficulty is. For me, it was a class that I took very recently as of this recording. It's called Advanced Quantitative Research. Sounds like a mouthful, doesn't it? Believe me, way more than a mouthful. More than a mouthful, and there's more than a handful. That whole two hands thing, no, that ain't what this is about. So, I started the class back in August, and to my knowledge, I thought, hey, since this was a somewhat of a stats class, I could just remember the stuff that Dr. Ballou taught me a long time ago at UWA. Some of it I remember, but most of it practically ended up becoming useless to me because I hadn't actually practiced it. Not to mention, the stuff that I was going to have to do was going to be entirely different in nature. So believe me, this was one of the most craziest things I've ever had to get into. Yes, I said most craziest. That's how bad it is. Most craziest. So while I'm doing this, I'm realizing that the traditional assignment pattern was you take the information, plug it into the SPSS 22 software, interpret the information, lay it out on a table, and then write a paper with it using at minimum 3 sources. Yo, I did not want to combine all that together, but that was what was necessary. That was what needed to be done. Now, this discouraged me a bit, but not as bad as that first few grades within the first 2 weeks. So I'm like, yo, why do I have a 40 something in the class? Whoa. And it turns out that the way I was doing it, it just wasn't correct. So the professor gave me an opportunity to redo one of the assignments. Looked a little bit better, but I was still disappointed because I really effed up an assignment. Like I really messed this up. So all throughout the rest of the class, I was trying to do Khan Academy, all sorts of little resources and materials, and finally I did manage to get a grip on it. But with the assignments themselves, you literally cannot do these at the last minute. Like these assignments, you had to start your initial analysis. Like one day you had to collect the information. Second day you had to organize the information. Third day, put it in, run the system. Fourth day, interpret it. Fifth day, create the table. Sixth day, write the paper that goes to it. You literally would spend a whole week on this if you didn't know what you were doing. Now, as you get into the class, it starts to get a little easier. You could do it in a faster amount of time, but you still would need to be ahead of it. And no matter how early I started these assignments, I would always still struggle, no matter how much I've asked for help. Finally, I think after about maybe a week of breaking down, because seeing that F the first time just really kind of messed me over. I broke down and nearly lost it. Something clicked. I decided, I was like, I can't let this class beat me. I went to some of my coworkers who were in leadership programs and doctoral programs as well, and they basically straight up told me, they said, hey, this is one of those things where you run into this is your crucible that you run into. And I asked the professor, I said, is this really a required class? And she said yes. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh Jesus, but there was nothing I could do. I could either drop the class or I could keep going and risk getting a D or an F in the class, or even a C. So later in the semester, I started to notice that I was getting like a little bit better at the work. And I was still asking for help every now and then. Like, this class started with 15 students. It got dropped to 7. And mind you, I still had the opportunity to drop it and get my full refund at the time. But if I dropped it now, I was still gonna have to face it later. Like, there was no way around it. And it wasn't like the materials were gonna change. Well, excuse me. It wasn't like the materials were gonna stay the same. They were gonna change. So I had to make sure that I knocked this out the first time. I can't go back and repeat a class. And so the whole time I'm praying, asking for revelation, asking for pretty much anything I could get at this point. And I don't know, it just, sometimes the answers that we be looking for are so simple. They be right in your face. But knowing how we are, we're looking for something that's like big, grand miracle scheme. It's not what we need to look for. So eventually I had gotten to a point where I had gotten a little bit better at it, almost where I could back to my normal self. I noticed that I was having like a 71 in the class. And so the last couple assignments that I did, it was 40 something out of 50, 43 out of 50, 51 out of 75, 61 out of 75, these kind of things. It never was just a straight up 75 out of 75 or 50 out of 50. And then the last week where we had our final and our final project, I got offered an extra credit opportunity. And I calculated it and I said, at this point in time, I had reached up to about a 76. And I said, if I do this assignment, if I accept the assignment, even if I bomb the final, 48 out of 80, even if I bomb the final, I could still probably get this B. And sure enough, I did. It was one of the craziest moments in my life. I'm literally waiting by the phone, waiting by the computer to see if that 79 rounded up to a B. And I got the email. I was happy. I got a B. And after all that hard work, I actually remember everything I went through. So what particular lesson could I give you guys out of all of this? Things are going to be hard. Your journey is going to be hard. You're going to cry some days. You're going to pull your hair. Well, you're going to want to pull your hair. You're going to want to say, I give up. You're going to want to just say, I can't do this anymore. And no matter how many times people tell you that you can do it, it won't matter unless you believe that you can do it, until you are determined to do it yourself. Because of that, many people have lost and never gone back to finish school, work, whatever. I tell anybody in a heartbeat, if you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. Sometimes, if you're the only one that believes in yourself, then that's what matters. It needs to be you. If it's not you, then what are you in it for? I realized that this doctorate program was going to be difficult in some areas. I realized that psychologically it could be hard, academically it could be hard, emotionally it can be hard, and then physically it is too. But as my mother would always say, anything worth having is not going to come easy. So those are pretty much your morals for the story. You already know what to do. If you got any questions, comments, or suggestions for a new topic, drop them down in the comments below, and follow me on my social media. Come take this journey with me. Hit me up. I like to message people, give them advice about different things, and try to keep them on the right track, because iron sharpens iron. That's not just something to keep us in check with each other, but it helps us motivate each other as well. because there's no friend like a friend that keeps you right. This has been another Silvertone production. Stay blessed.